Hello. Yeah, it's good to be back again here doing some cool stuff. And tonight we'll be chilling with hosting WordPress using Amazon S3 buckets. Well, you're gonna love this content, trust me. And since it's a special night, I've got cool background music going on for you guys. I hope you love this stuff. Well, let's get right into the stuff we have for today. And this lab will be teaching you how to convert WordPress websites running an EC2 instance or any other server environment into a static web site hosted on S3 bucket. So the question will be, ding, why do you want to do this stuff? Anyways, whilst there are lots of reasons, I'll just touch on two. The first one being that you want to save some costs. For instance, if you've got this running on EC2 instance, I don't want to leave that stuff running just like that. You'll be incurring some heavy costs depending on the number of visitors going or checking up your sites. So you could probably just convert that to static, put in an S3 bucket, which is pretty much easy, and you're saving costs. And not just saving costs, you can actually have multiple connection hitting that S3 bucket, fetching the content without hassle or pressure, nothing. All things looks good. So I guess these are reasons why you want to do this. Now let's get into a bit of technicality before we touch on the lab review. So I'm going to go back to the previous slide and just talk a bit. So if you don't know what WordPress is, basically WordPress is a dynamic website in nature, and it's largely adopted. Do a Google search, trust me, you'll be shocked by the number of frameworks that actually built around WordPress. Now, a dynamic website relies heavily on server-side processing, as we do know. So you need a server like an EC2 instance to host that content, so you can have database hooked up and you can have all the processing within the business logic of the application going on. So, but again, whilst this is good, sad as it may sound, you need to be running like PHP, JSP, ASP.NET, and several other server-side language which are necessary to actually have a full-fledged application going. Now, in order to host a dynamic website, some form of a web server is required, obviously, hence the EC2 instance to host that stuff, and as well as database. Now, this requires you to maintain lots of concerns, not just the fact that the server needs to be running, it needs to be patched, things must be done appropriately, right access control mechanism, security policies enforced. Whilst that can be a hassle, with just an S3 bucket you can save yourself all that stress. Now the alternative would be to convert the WordPress website, which you're going to see, into a static website and dramatically reduce the cost of hosting one. Then not just that, we can as well use client-side scripting like JavaScript to make it a bit dynamic, to be able to do fun stuff around the application as well, not just static, as we will see. Again, the caveat is you need to know that whenever you want to update this, you must go start the EC2 instance, do your update, ship it to the S3 bucket by automation, and shut it down again. Hence, life goes smooth and easy for you. Okay, so it means whenever you want to put a blog out there, you must go start the EC2 instance, do your update, and fall back in. Okay, so enough with that chitty chat. Now let's get into the topics we're going to cover today. We'll configure WordPress in EC2 instance. We'll export a WordPress site to a static files. Then we'll create an SD bucket, make it a web browsable bucket. Then we will drop our contents in there. Then we'll try to browse the content to see if it's working correctly. Then if that's working fine, we'll now create a script to send WordPress changes to S3 buckets, kind of like a little automation there in the background. Okay, so now join me in the fun part, which is usually the lab session. All right. Okay, so moving on to the first part, probably setting up the WordPress website. We'll visit the EC2 instance page. We can see right here WordPress is running in this or on this instance correctly put. So what we're going to do is we're going to browse to this instance. I'll be opening it up later just to be able to make some changes to the particular WordPress instance. But let's browse to the URL. Then let's set up WordPress. Okay, whilst that is loading, I'm just going to go over here and connect to the instance so we can maybe see what it looks like. I'll connect using the SSH. I'm just going to connect to this, so we'll have a tab opening up. Wait for this to load, then I'll come back to you guys to proceed with the fun stuff. Okay, so this is the install.php page. Let's quickly set it up to be able to do what we want to do. We'll set up a user account, we'll set up a password, then we'll just set up a dummy email Okay, so the user site title, I'll just call this my security blog. Okay, we'll put a username of students, then we'll put a password, then I'll put an email address there at example.com. Okay, grab that, then we'll install WordPress on this. So once installation is done, we will log in into, I'll never save this, we'll log in into WordPress and see what it looks like. So we got students, then we got the password, we log in. Now once we're in, we will just create a dummy blog. I'm going to have to do that in the background to save me some time. Then we will publish the blog just so we're sure it's running up and running fine. Okay, WordPress is up and running. Let's go create a new blog, a new post, and share in our blog. Okay, so I went creative. Yes, my security resolve. Yes, many security folks may think cybersecurity equals installing security tools and catching bad guys when these tools raise alerts. Cliche, right? Permit me to LOL. Well, security is not security until we integrate technology, processes, policies, and people in one fine harmony. Take it from me or be a snub, I don't care, until you have clear visibility as to how users interact with technology via processes and are backed by policies. You do not have security. It's just my ninth resolve. Take it grain of salt, probably. Okay, so we're going to publish this blog, and we'll get this exposed. We'll go visit this blog and see what it looks like. I'm pretty much okay with the visibility policy and also the publishing. Immediately we'll publish this. Okay, yay, we got our first blog. Right now we can visit this blog. We'll copy this URL, we can just put it on our browser. We will see our blog loaded correctly. Okay, there you have my first blog. I hope you love my content. Great. So you can choose to maybe leave a comment for your mind. I'm just having fun, like I usually would love to have fun, so don't mind me. All right, great. So that's it. Next, since we have a first blog and it's been visible, let's create an Amazon S3 bucket, and within this bucket we'll set it to be able to host content as a web hosting bucket. We'll go over to our S3 page. We will just rapidly create an S3 bucket quickly. We'll give it a name, unique name it has to be actually. Let's call this WordPress v001. Okay, or maybe just WordPress 1. That looks fine. Then I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. I think at this moment I don't need ACLs. I want this to be publicly accessible by everyone. Or they click that, then select acknowledge this. Then I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and I think I'll have to bucket versioning. No, at this point let me see advanced setting if there's anything of importance there. Obviously there's nothing of importance there. So once we have this done, let's go ahead and create the buckets. Then we'll make modifications to the bucket properties to be able to host content within the buckets. Bucket with the same name already exists, just add a one by the last part of it and try that again. It has to be a unique name, right? If not, you won't go past this page. Okay, so we have our buckets. Now I'm going to close all this thing over here, and that's our bucket. So click on our buckets, then we'll just set this to be able to host static web application or web content within the properties. Currently there are no objects in the bucket, so we're going to get to that later. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom closer. So I need to enable this static hosting. We'll enable this. Then we'll set a few things. We'll create the index.html file and also the error.html file. So we have both files created. Now we can go ahead and create this bucket and we'll be good to go. So what we'll do is we will save these changes. Once we do, we will have a bucket URL. So that is the URL we'll be using to visit our static content once it's been created into the bucket. So I'm going to go over to where the URL is. It's still loading, and once that is loaded, we'll have the URL there. Okay, I think it's ready. I'm going to copy this and take it to my data sheet. So I'll paste it right over here. So moving on, now the next point of action will be to generate a static version of WordPress from the version which you have in EC2. And to do this, we'll have to connect to EC2 instance via SSH, which on the browser, which I've already done. So we can see here, this is our EC2 instance. Is it still alive or is dead? Seems like it's dead. Oh no, that's dead. Too bad. Okay, we're going to kill this session, and I'm just going to start a new session. That'll save me some time there. Okay, so we have a new session in here. If I go to the oh my bad, HTML, we will see WordPress in there. Great. So I'm going to see the WordPress. This is the WordPress application. Everything is right here. So first thing we're going to do is we're trying to see how we could set Apache to be able to own stuff and be able to do stuff. So we'll first need to use sed to change a bit of details, create a backup copy of a file, then be able to use that actually as a way we don't corrupt stuff. So I'm going to just copy the commands from here. I think I've got the command for sed here. Give me a minute. If I don't, I'll have to type that thing in. It's too bad. Okay, it doesn't seem okay. Yeah, there it is. I'll create the backup copy, then replace whatever. We're replacing allow override with none, and on the global we can see the all G right there. So paste this over here. Then I'll enter on this. So that is done without error. Then we're going to restart the service. Sudo service httpd restart. Httpd, my bad. Okay, that's going to restart the service. Now once the service is restarted, we will download the static WP static tool. I've got a command right there to do that. I'm just going to, where's the wget? If you want me to leave this command, I'll be glad to do that, just so you're able to. Okay, there it is. I'll use wget to download it. Now we need to be downloading this in the WordPress directory. You can see that. Okay, I'm already in WordPress directory, so I'm going to paste this here. Download the WP static quickly. That was downloaded without errors. Then I'm going to use bin sh to run that command. I'm going to just paste this right here and starts. Okay, no such file in directory. Why? Okay, not great. I think I need to probably remove the bin sh thing. I don't need that. Okay, so we started the installation. We just skipped the sudo command. So we put the command and we started the installation. So our installation is done and it's ready. Next, we need to use chown to change at the global level the directory entirely only to Apache. If not, we'll be having issues. So we'll do sudo chown, pass the R flag Apache, the user Apache, the group Apache as well, then the var HTML, then the WordPress. Okay, that should be it. Now once this is done, we should be cool to have a form of we already have the URL. We just need to find the static URL. I'll be showing you the static URL. I already have it copied. Then we will use that URL when we have the contents uploaded into the S3 buckets. Okay, so let's go visit the static page just to be sure we have that installation successful without errors. So if this loads correctly, it means we have the installation working perfectly. Might take a while. We'll wait for that and I'll come back to you guys. Okay, so it loaded successfully. We can see right here, right? This is a static, the WP static. But this is not our blog yet. But again, we can reach this. It means we've created this static website, which will be dumping in S3 buckets. So what we need to do now is to try to upload the content of this with our WordPress content. So we're able to actually now take that over to the S3 buckets. So let's go back to the next part of this challenge, which will be to upload the static WordPress page in the S3 buckets. Now, for us to do this successfully, we may need to set some environment variables. Then we may also need to do a bit of variables set properly to be sure that the ACL is being enforced. Then we can now use the S3 sync, AWS S3 sync, to sync the content into the S3 buckets. So let's go ahead with that. First, I need to determine the region. So I've got a little command here to sort that out. I'll be glad to leave this command like I did say. So availability zone, we're using call to write that as an environment variable. Oh, my bad. I'm just going to copy this. So we're writing the content out as availability zone. I'll go back to my EC2 terminal and I'll paste this here. Okay, store that as an environment variable. Then we'll do the same for the buckets. We'll store this, extract the S3 API, then we're passing the list bucket, then query bucket, start with the name, the bucket name basically. Then we'll paste that right here as well. Set this variable. Okay, we're good to go. Now we need to use S3 sync to sync the content. So what we're going to do is pass this command AWS S3, then sync. We're syncing ACL. Let's set an ACL public read, which validates what we've done in the instance. So we'll do the path to the content www.html. Then it's the WordPress. Now, what part of this we're taking? We're taking the only static file which we had created. WordPress static. Be sure that's what you're copying. Now, what we want to do is we want to write this over to the S3 buckets. So we've stored the bucket URL as an environment variable. We're just going to use that. And if all things being equal, we should have this completely executing. Upload failed. I see there seems to be an error. We're going to find the issue. Then I'll get back to you guys once I've been able to find that out. Okay, so we've been able to fix our mess. Basically, when we were creating that bucket, we didn't set ACL. So I had to remove that ACL part of the command, and it ran successfully. Now we should have our WordPress content in our S3 bucket. So we will try to go view it and see what it looks like. Okay. So let's copy the S3 URL. I'm going to look for the S3 URL, which we had copied, which is this. Then if our sync is done and it's successful, we should have the content in the S3 buckets. So let's try to visit that URL. We probably will see our WordPress. So you can see over there, okay, a bit of access issues. I'm going to go check the access control policy to be sure we're able to view this publicly. Okay, so after a while of battling, we're able to update the ACL. Now we can see our WordPress blog static. So what we're going to do next will be just to wrap this up pretty much fast before I have to go. So the next thing we're going to do will be to, now that we have the buckets public facing, let's use scripting to maybe make changes to the S3 buckets. The first script we're going to do is to create a new script shell to extract the pages from the WordPress and copy them to our S3 buckets. And I've got a script here just for that. So if you look right here, I've got this script here. So what this script will do will be to basically extract the pages from WordPress, running an EC2 instance, and go dump them in the S3 buckets. I'm going to copy this. I'll be glad to leave the script with you. You'll be glad to go through them. If you need me to help, I'll be glad to also help. So we'll first run that, then change the permission, then execute the script. So I'll go back to my terminal and paste this here. Let's get this running. Okay, then we will execute this, change ch mode and set that to execute. Paste this. Okay, now that we have this done already, then the next thing to do is to maybe automate the script or run the script to be able to do stuff for us. So the first part will be to cd into var.wordpress which you're in. Then we will delete this static dictionary, the WP static dictionary. We will paste this here, delete that WordPress static dictionary. Then we will run that script to create a static HTML page of the current state of the website. Now these whole things can be actually automated. No such file found. I guess I may have copied the wrong thing. I'm gonna copy that again. Let me see. Probably no such file found. Did I remove the file already? Oh yeah, I did. So I'm trying to execute the scripts. I think I know what its problem is. Okay, I'm just gonna get that fixed and I come back to you guys. Okay, so quickly getting back to running this to create a new static. So we're creating a new static. Once this is done, we have all that file created. Then we need to look for a way to send this over to S3 buckets. Again, I've got a command right here. So this command will be setting the ACL public read. I think there will be a problem with this because again we had to manually go and override that ACL thing. We'll delete the current content, then we'll copy the new content sync into the buckets. And once this is executed, now I would really recommend you use a form of bash automation to do this stuff, just so you don't have to manually start doing this, so you can create a basic bash script to always get this thing done for you without hassle. Hence, you can set that script, maybe create a cron job, put the script in there at every time where you think you usually will have updates. You just go ahead and get the script executed. Then it will quickly execute and move the content over to your S3 buckets. So finally, to wrap this up, if I go over to my S3 buckets, I'll be able to see the content. Now at this stage, I can choose to shut down the EC2 instance just to save me some costs, because already I will have my static website in the S3 buckets and it will be served to my user. As you can see, the files are right here in the S3 buckets. So obviously this will load, since this bucket is set to be a web server bucket, it will serve the index.html page whenever the user browse to this bucket, and that saves us a lot of hassle. Okay, so that will be all for the recording today. I hope you find this useful. Maybe you're trying to save some cost, or you probably want to have clear management and as to user access to your resources. You can just create a static copy of your website using that WP static. If it's WordPress, there are other tools to do that as well. Put it in S3 bucket, make it public facing, then you're good to go. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next recording. Have a good day. Bye bye.